Imagine this. Donald Trump storms into the press room, red-faced, fists pounding the podium, demanding, no, begging, for a deal. The cameras flash, reporters shout questions, and Trump bellows that America is being cheated again. But here's the twist. This time, he's not in control of the game. Because on the other side of the border, Canada's brand new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, just pulled off a move no one saw coming. Instead of backing down, instead of scrambling to react, Carney flipped the script, turning Trump's trade war into a test of who really respects the rules of the USMCA. Carney didn't swing blindly. He didn't throw a haymaker that risked collapsing Canada's economy. No, he struck with precision. A 25% tariff laser-focused on American cars that fail to meet the trade pact's requirements. One move that hit Trump where it hurts most: Detroit, jobs, and the illusion of total control. Trump wanted a fight. Carney gave him a chess match. And suddenly, the so-called master of the art of the deal is on the back foot, fuming, demanding, begging, because he knows Canada just changed the rules of engagement. This isn't just another trade spat. This is a turning point in North American politics where for the first time in years, the US president is the one being cornered. And if you think this story ends with Trump walking away a winner, think again. Because what happens next could shake the auto industry, consumer prices, and even Trump's political future. Stay with me until the end of this video, because you're about to see exactly how Mark Carney flipped the game on Donald Trump. Mark Carney didn't come into office quietly. Just this past March, he took the oath as Canada's new Prime Minister with a bold promise. Canada would be the strongest economy in the G7, not by shouting, but by outsmarting. Carney, the former central banker, was known for calm precision. But no one expected that within weeks he would be standing toe-to-toe with Donald Trump in a full-scale trade confrontation. It started in April. Trump's White House had been itching for leverage, claiming that Canada was taking advantage of the United States. So Carney responded with his first big move, a 25% tariff, but not on everything, only on American cars that didn't comply with USMCA rules. It was sharp, selective, and designed to send a message. Canada wasn't afraid to fight back, but it would do so with discipline, not chaos. That one policy instantly put pressure on automakers in Michigan and Ohio, who suddenly faced a choice: either align with the rules of the agreement or get slammed by Canada's wall of tariffs. Then July rolled around, and Trump's fury escalated. On July 31st, the White House announced a sweeping 25% tariff on all imported cars and parts, a blunt weapon that risked driving up the price of every vehicle in America. And just one day later, Trump went even further, threatening a 35% tariff on Canadian goods outside of USMCA. It was the classic Trump playbook: go big, go loud, and hope the other side caves. But Carney didn't blink. Instead of panicking, he doubled down on his framing. Canada was still playing by the rules of the trade pact. Trump, on the other hand, was the one tearing up the playbook. This contrast mattered. In the eyes of global markets, Canada wasn't the reckless partner. It was the disciplined one, defending the integrity of USMCA while exposing Trump's tariffs as political theater. And then, in early August, Carney unveiled his surprise twist. He signaled that Canada might consider rolling back some counter tariffs if, and only if, the US came back to the table seriously, a carrot after the stick. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Instead of looking like the aggressor, Carney looked like the statesman, while Trump looked desperate for a win. What we're watching isn't just a trade fight. It's a chess match where one side is swinging wildly with a hammer and the other is playing with surgical precision. And the stakes: billions in trade, thousands of jobs, and political futures on both sides of the border. To understand just how explosive this fight really is, we have to talk numbers. Because this isn't about tweets or podium theatrics, it's about billions of dollars and the backbone of North America's economy: cars. Start with Canada's move in April. The Trudeau government before him would have likely played it safe, but Carney went in with scalpel-like precision: a 25% tariff on American vehicles that failed to meet USMCA compliance rules. That meant if Detroit automakers followed the pact, rules about minimum wages, North American content, and supply chain integrity, their cars flowed freely. If not, they were hit with a punishing wall of tariffs. The scope? 35.6 billion Canadian dollars worth of imports, a massive lever aimed directly at the U.S. auto heartland. Compare that with Trump's July response, a 25% tariff on all imported vehicles and parts. No exceptions, no nuance. That's not a scalpel, that's a sledgehammer, and the immediate consequence, prices. Analysts warned that American consumers would see car prices spike thousands of dollars overnight. Imagine walking into a dealership in Texas or Florida and finding that the same SUV costs $5,000 more, not because of demand, not because of better quality, but because the White House slapped on a tax. Economists also pointed out that such a blunt tariff would ripple through the supply chain, raising costs for repair shops, trucking fleets, and even small businesses relying on affordable vehicles. But Carney's strategy did something smarter. By linking tariffs directly to USMCA compliance, he forced American companies to choose, stand with Trump's political theater, or protect their bottom line by honoring the trade rules. And the pressure was immediate. Canadian consumers were spared the worst of the blow because compliant vehicles kept moving while non-compliant models faced the tax wall. It was a clear signal that Canada wasn't trying to destroy trade, it was trying to discipline it. And let's not forget the 35% Trump threatened on Canadian goods outside CUSMA. On paper, it sounded tough. In practice, it was messy. Many Canadian exports, energy, agriculture, raw materials are deeply interwoven into American supply chains. A 35% tax there doesn't just punish Canada, it raises input costs for U.S. factories, farmers, and even grocery stores. Once again, the White House went broad, while Ottawa went targeted. Economists across the board noticed the contrast. One U.S. analyst called Trump's tariff strategy a political stunt with inflationary consequences, while praising Carney's approach as sophisticated lawfare within the trade pact. In other words, Trump's moves made headlines, but Carney's moves reshaped incentives. And here's the kicker. Carney didn't stop at punishment. By early August, he dangled a strategic olive branch, signaling Canada might roll back certain tariffs if the U.S. engaged in real talks. That subtle shift turned the pressure dial up even higher, not on Canadians, but on Trump's political allies in the Auto Belt. Governors, CEOs, and workers in Michigan and Ohio now had to ask, who's really protecting our jobs here? Trump with his hammer or Carney with his chessboard? That's how the data tells the story. One side weaponized chaos, the other weaponized compliance. And in doing so, Carney flipped what looked like another Trump-driven trade war into a test of credibility, discipline, and economic survival. So who came out ahead and who got burned in this escalating trade showdown? Let's start with the winners. At the top of the list, Canadian consumers. By designing tariffs to punish only non-compliant American cars, Carney shielded families in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal from the kind of across-the-board price hikes Trump's tariffs unleashed. Shoppers in Canada could still find competitively priced vehicles as long as they were built according to USMCA rules. That's smart policy. It hits the offender, not the everyday driver. Another winner? Automakers that play by the book. Companies that already structured their supply chains to meet USMCA standards suddenly had a built-in advantage. Instead of worrying about blanket tariffs, they got to keep exporting seamlessly to Canada. Carney effectively rewarded good behavior, creating a market incentive for compliance. And then, of course, there's Carney himself. In just months on the job, he transformed his image from cautious central banker to strategic statesman. While Trump raged and threatened, Carney looked calm, calculating, and credible. On the world stage, that's gold. He positioned Canada as the rational adult in the room, something global investors and trade partners notice. Now, the losers. First and foremost, Trump's political base in the Auto Belt. Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, states that live and die by car manufacturing, are now squeezed from both sides. Trump's tariffs hike costs across the board, while Canada's targeted response punishes those who cut corners. Workers on assembly lines aren't cheering when SUVs sit unsold on lots because prices just jumped. Next, American consumers. Unlike their Canadian counterparts, they don't get exemptions. Trump's 25% tariff applies to all imported cars and parts, meaning higher sticker prices, higher repair costs, and higher inflation. For a president who once promised cheaper goods and booming wages, this looks like a betrayal. And finally, the illusion of Trump's leverage. By overreaching, he revealed the weakness in his strategy. The more he hammers, the more it costs his own voters. Meanwhile, Carney's measured approach isolates Trump diplomatically. Even America's trade allies in Europe and Asia can see who's using tariffs as a negotiating tool and who's using them as a political stunt. In short, Carney's winners are strategic, consumers, compliant businesses, international credibility. Trump's losers are painful, his voters, his auto industry, and his own political narrative. So, where does this go from here? The answer depends on how badly Donald Trump needs a win. With an election season heating up and his base in the Rust Belt feeling the squeeze, Trump is desperate to claim victory. But here's the problem. Carney has shifted the terrain. Instead of a shouting match, this fight is now about credibility under USMCA. If Trump wants to calm the markets, reassure automakers, and stop prices from spiraling for American families, the only off-ramp is the one Carney quietly offered, a conditional rollback of counter tariffs, if the U.S. comes back to the table in good faith. That's not Canada caving, that's Canada setting the terms. But if Trump refuses, then buckle up. Canada has proven it can fight smart, not just loud. Detroit will keep pressuring Washington. Consumers will keep asking why they're paying thousands more for the same car. And every time Trump rants about being cheated, Carney will calmly point to the rules, to the pact America itself signed, and remind the world who's really breaking the deal. The outlook is clear. Trump's gamble could backfire into a political liability, while Carney's strategy may cement Canada's reputation as the disciplined power in North America. The stakes aren't just economic, they're political, global, and personal. And here's the kicker for you, the viewer. This trade fight isn't over. The next move could reshape industries, swing elections, and decide whether North America is led by reckless tariffs or by smart, rules-based strategy. So let me ask you, who do you think comes out on top? Trump with his hammer or Carney with his chessboard? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next twist in this trade war story. Because trust me, this game is just getting started.